Hi, friends. Welcome again to another episode of Beyond the Clouds Edge to Edge Transformation. And talking of transformation, we have here with us Nir Megnazi, and he's an interesting guy. He worked in various other so called successful professions, including technology, and he's doing something unusual. Nir, tell us about you and how did you end up here? What was your journey like?
Wow, my journey is, I would say, unique to me, as it is unique to any other person. So I started my career as a computer engineer. I graduated from the Technion in Israel. I have a bachelor's degree in computer engineering. And in my fourth semester, I already joined Intel Corporation. So that's how I started. That's my how I started my journey in technology as a professional. Way before that, my parents bought me the first Apple IIc when it came out. And I didn't use it for a lot of programming. I'm not a software engineer, I'm not a programmer, but I used to play a lot on that. I was good in mathematics and physics. So a natural, I think, direction for me was to learn engineering. Fast forward 23 years, I'm today a leadership coach. I coach senior leaders, executives, managers, directors with a mission to improve their skills, to support leaders, because I truly believe that leaders have one of the most complex and demanding role in today's society.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you started the leadership program at Intel, the executive coaching program at Intel, and I was one of the beneficiaries of it. Can you tell us a little bit about the genesis of it? How you felt the need and why you started it?
Yes. And I'll just correct one thing. Me and my partner, Lynette Winter, we created the flagship coaching program for Intel. There was a coaching program. There is a coaching program at Intel. We created a cohort leadership development program, which later became the flagship program for Intel. And how it started is I was sent here to the US for a relocation with the goal of building an engineering team. I was a manager, I was an engineering manager. When I came here, I already had a background of coaching. I started my coaching journey in 2011, not professionally. I took a one-day course that was called Foundation for Coaching. This is where you get an introduction into what coaching is. And as a manager at that time, it intrigued me so much. I remember leaving that um, course and thinking, what is this? This is new. This is amazing. I haven't seen this way of communicating before. So what I did at the end, I asked the instructor if we can grab coffee. So a day after, me and the instructor, her name is Clara, went to coffee at Intel, and we're sitting there, and she asks me, "Hey Nir, what is your plan B?" And I was puzzled. What do you mean? What is your plan B? I said, Clara, I don't understand the question. So she said, look around you. And I'm looking around me and, what am I supposed to see? How many people over the age of 60 do you see around you? I'm looking around now with more focus and I don't see anyone. I said, none. I said, great. So, and I was back then about 37 years old, having at least 30 more years in the industry. So she asked me, so do you plan to work for Intel for another 30 years? And that hit me. That was like a slap in the face. So, well, I don't think so. So she said, okay, what's your plan B? That was 2011. And that, in a way, shook me. It woke me up from my tendency to just let things happen. So instead of floating on the river without a paddle, right, and letting the stream take you wherever it is, it was an awakening moment of, oh, I actually have to plan my future. So after 3 years of debating, thinking, trying some stuff, I actually decided to take coaching as another profession. And I went to learn coaching professionally in Israel in the Adler Institute, graduated in 2017, and I did as much coaching as I could within work. And in 2017, I was sent to the US on a relocation in an engineering management role. At one point, I thought to myself, well, what kind of coach am I? I was already a certified coach, but I was a certified life coach. And that was not satisfying for me. So I did some inner work and got to the conclusion that I want to help grow leaders. I want to support leaders. And what I did is I just thought, okay, so let's build a coaching program for leaders. And when you're in a big corporate, that's actually easy. It might seem hard, but it's actually easy because you don't always have to ask for permission. You just invite people in your network for a 2-hour session in one of the meeting rooms. So I just reached out to my network and asked them, hey, who wants some leadership coaching? For free, of course. It's intra-company. 6 people signed up, and for 3 months, we met every 2 weeks and did some leadership coaching. To tell it was the best thing I ever did, on the contrary, probably the worst. But it gave value. It gave me experience. I learned what works, what doesn't work. So I had the experience already of building a coaching program. And at one point, Intel made a great decision to build a coaching program for leaders. Intel acknowledged the importance of coaching, the importance of leaders to helping engaging employees, to retain employees, and they made a smart decision to invest in that. So they opened those 2 roles to build the next coaching program for Intel, and I applied and got accepted together with Jeanette Winter. And then for 3.5 years, we built, executed, delivered this coaching program at Intel, which, by the way, even now that I'm not working for Intel for about 8 months, this program still runs at Intel very successfully.
A lot of people think that leadership programs are only for executives who manage large teams, but that's not the intent of many leadership programs. Can it be applicable to individuals?
Absolutely. Let's think about what is the main tool of a leader, right? The higher you climb the ranks, the less work, hands-on work you do. It doesn't mean that you're not learning, is that you're not accumulating information about the process, how things should be done, but you're not the person with the legs on the ground solving the technical challenges. So you have to learn how to work through others, which means the conversations and how to have a conversation, how to have a dialogue is the most critical tool for the leader. It's not the technical knowledge. It's not about strategy. It's not about, do I know the process or not? It's not about supply chain. They're all needed, but they're not the most important. Dialogue skills, conversation skills, relationship skills are much more important than that. And when you look at what does a first-line manager needs versus what a VP needs when it comes to conversation skills, they're almost the same. So if we focus on conversation skills, it can be applied to an individual within a team, working with the teammates, working with their boss, working with other teams, and all the way to the CEO or board members. Because none of us works in a vacuum. We're all working together. if I'll ask you, Shankar, in whatever way you want to answer right now, how many relationships are you maintaining, or in how many conversation you're engaging every day just to do your day-to-day work? What would be a number that you would give me right now?
Well, in my case, it's a huge number because besides my own family and my friends, in my work life, although it's a small company, I'm engaged with vendors that provide services to us. I'm engaged with my peers and consultants and with customers and many more people like you because that's a big part of what I do, which is conversations. But even if I was not doing any conversation, it would easily be double digit, at least a dozen people every day.
Exactly. So it's the amount of conversation we have a day is in direct relation to, at the end, our success, because we can't do it in a vacuum. Even when we say, oh, this person is a solopreneur, well, it just means they run their company on their own, but they cannot do it on their own. Just as you said, they have vendors, they have customers, they have clients, right? They have investors. We're not doing this on our own. I think that's the biggest paradigm shift we need to have, not just here in the States, but in all Western culture. We need one another. We need to get back to working together, investing in the together versus just in myself. So when we train leaders or when we coach leaders, we coach them to build their capacity and capability of having great conversations that further relationships.
Indeed, indeed. And now we have all this technology. We have online stuff going on. We have automated systems. You and I are talking on Zoom right now. There's ChatGPT and many other things. In what ways can these things help us to cultivate leadership skills? And in broadly, how can we become better human beings?
Wow, great question. So the connectedness is, I think, very obvious, right? You can be in the Bay Area, I'm in Oregon. We can connect, something we couldn't do, I call it efficiently, before COVID, right? We could do it, but yes, there was a lot of licensing and technology issues and bandwidth. And today, Zoom is just like having a phone. It's so easy, right? And if it's not Zoom, it's Google Meet or whatever connection method people are using. You press a button and suddenly the other person appears there. So we're more available. The quality of sound is better. Quality of video is better. So it feels almost as if you're in the room with me. So we can connect. And bringing people together is always great. On top of that, today we're going into AI. There are some opportunities in AI to help us improve how we communicate. So if you can teach an AI machine to give you feedback about your style of communication, that can also give you some feedback about, hey, is this efficient or not? It can be a training tool for us. And there are many startups in the world that are diving into that right now.
Now, are there any challenges that are posed by these technologies? We are almost always with some tool or technology. Is that causing hindrances in people's lives as well?
I think very much. I think the one thing that I will most definitely say is, and COVID, I think, contributed a lot to that, is we are working from home is very comfortable. It's very comfortable. I'm here in my office. If I want a great cup of coffee, I have 5 steps to take and go to my kitchen and brew my favorite espresso cup, right? And it's smart. If I need to go to work, If I would work right now back in a corporate, I would have to drive 20 minutes to work, which takes time, and another 20 minutes going back. That's almost an hour of my day that I'm going to spend just traveling, and that's without traffic. People, when there's traffic, sometimes even travel 2 hours a day, each direction, just to get to work. So that is a waste of time. It's less comfortable. But then we lose something that is very precious and needed for us as human. That is human connection. That is very hard to create online. It's not impossible, but it's much harder. And it's more easily to create and feel when we're together. So even if we're together, we're trying, I don't say always, but at least I try as much as possible to schedule time outside of the screen to meet with friends, to meet with people, go for coffee. And I'll give an example why this is important. Have you ever walked down the street and for some reason, you don't know why, you don't understand why, someone piqued your curiosity, you lifted your head and you locked eyes? Usually we don't lock eyes for more than half a second, right? We don't want to look like we're stalking someone, we're moving, but sometimes for some reason our eyes keep locking for one more second. We don't know why, but it happens. How do you feel? What happens to you, Shankar? If you think about that, what happens to you when that happens?
I either assume that they've recognized me, or I feel touched, or sometimes I'm like, why is this person looking at me? That question mark comes up.
Yeah. So there's this inner feeling that is different, right? When we connect, there is a different energy between us.
True.
Why are we seeking to get together with our friends? Why don't we just move all of our relationships to the online realm? Why can't we have get together over beer in our office? That doesn't sound like a good solution, right? We want to get together, physically together, because there's this human connection, this camaraderie, this frequency that takes the relationship to a deeper level when we're physically together. Many people who probably listen to this podcast have online colleagues at work. So I'll ask you, the listeners, what happens for the first time that you meet physically an online colleague? And it can be someone from another company, someone within your company, but for the first time, there's a business trip, there's a face-to-face, you come together and you physically meet that person. How did that impact the relationship beyond this encounter?
You transitioned from a pure technology role and one of the biggest leaders in the industry, Intel, and many other roles that you had earlier, into a pure human resource or social engineering role where you are with people all the time. First of all, what was the transition like? I know it was gradual for you. The other thing is, have you ever wished, oh, I was back with my machines, technology is moving so?
I would say it's a natural transition for me. Very early, I was more interested in people than technology. I think there are more challenges in connecting and building relationship with people and helping leading people. I think it's much more challenging than solving a technical problem. And I was more curious about that than about technology. Now, don't get me wrong. I love technology. I'm a geek. You would still see behind me those plaques I got for projects that I'm very proud to work on. And I can still say, hey, some of the things I worked on are in my laptop right now. It makes me very proud to be contributing to such a great company, to great products. And at the end, we want to impact people. And I think that in this capacity, my impact is bigger, better, more important than the next piece of technology. There are people who are much, much more smarter than me that can make bigger contribution to technology. So I'm going to contribute to the leveling side of technology, that is human connection.
Excellent, excellent. And when you started your career, I don't know if you even imagined you'd be doing what you're doing today.
No, I did not.
Given how much is changing in the world today, I see young students as well as people in mid-career wondering what they should do next. And it's not an easy answer. Young people want to figure out what's the coolest profession to be in. And mid-career, a lot of people hit stumbling blocks, and it's not clear whether it's to continue what they're doing. What do you say to them? I'm sure you get people like that all the time.
I see that all the time, the confusion. Like I see it in my kids. I have 4 kids. Not all of them know what they want to be when they grow up. You know what? I didn't know. I just followed the stream. I was floating in a stream, but kids today, they're expected to know what they want to do. And there's so many options. It's just like going to a grocery store and you want to buy milk. But when you go to the refrigerator, there are 10, 15, maybe 20 types of milk. So which one do I buy? It's much more hard to choose versus, okay, there are two brands. Now choose. It's much easier when we have less options. So I see why they're frustrated. I think also young people today, they're looking for the impact, they're looking for a meaning. They also want to enjoy. It's all about happiness. I want to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to enjoy everything. And they're missing the part where, well, sometimes to get to this happiness, there's an uncomfortable stage. And we're in a culture today that does not appreciate discomfort. We want the easy way, the comfort way. Amazon Prime, right? Let's think about COVID time. We didn't have to get out of our house. With a push of a button, we eliminated the drive to the store, walking around the aisles, browsing, and picking what we want. We're just in a push of a button. It's so comfortable. We got back. And I think those kids are born into this culture today. And they see the amount of comfort that we have. They don't experience enough challenge in their life to build this inner resilience to choose something and go through it. Now, I'm generalizing. Some kids are. And it's more about where they grew up and also their own character. But as a culture, my assessment, again, I'm not never speaking the truth, only my own truth. What I see and how I make sense of the world, they're not challenged enough. They think everything should come easy to them, and that's what they're looking for. And life is not about everything being easy and happy. Life is about the balance. The best analogy I heard is someone interviewing a woman, and I forgot his name. He's the author of The Wild Edge of Sorrow. And in one of his interviews, he says, well, I met this woman who's so happy. When she's happy, she's glowing. And I was intrigued. I was curious about how come she's so happy? What's her secret? And he asked her, and she told him, well, it's because I cry a lot. So if we really want to be happy, we also need to know how to be sad. And all this world of uncomfortable emotions, of challenge, is something that as a culture we're trying to move away from. And I think that's the biggest challenge with kids today.
Technology is changing so many things. A lot of the jobs today will probably disappear or will be morphed in a very significant way. So what about the future of work? What about people in mid-career? Let's say legal assistants or even basic programmers, QA engineers. What's going to happen to their careers and how can they find a joy in whatever they do?
Amazing question. I think I'm going to answer it, and I'm going to say the best brains, the best minds, the best thinkers in the world are trying to answer this question. So I'm very humble when I'm answering this question. I think that the one thing that AI hasn't done yet, and I say yet because I don't know if that's going to be in the future, is innovation. Innovation. Think about those moments where you were dealing with something, with a challenge, you dropped it, you went home, you were mowing your lawn, you were taking a shower, you went to the gym, and then suddenly, without any warning, bam, the idea came to you. The solution came to you. It can be 3 a.m. in the morning. You wake up with the solution. Whoa, what happened now? It's kind of a download. So there's a different energy stream or different stream of information and knowledge that we as humans, we have access to. And it's a lot about creativity, innovation, thinking outside of the box. But we have to set ourselves to be innovative. So everything that is mundane, everything that is repetitive, right? Computers will take over. And I've done QA when I just started my career. And you know what? For me, it was boring. For me, again, there are tons of QA people who love what they do. Great. How can we inject innovation into that? People need to go back to our core capabilities of being innovative. And I think that's how progress will push us as the humankind from just doing the repetitive work into innovation and creativity, at least in the technology world. Because there's no replacement for human connection. Even if I'll build the most accurate avatar, which would be highly imperfect, because if it's perfect, we'll know it's an avatar, right? But let's make it imperfect, so it would truly fool us. There's a person there, and they'll say all the right things. I don't think they would be able to transmit this human connection that we can feel when we meet a real human. We will sense that it's fake, and we will always need human connection. So all those places that require human connection, real human connection, those will remain.
I remember once you said that certain technologies have become sugar-coated poison. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What is really happening with technology, and how can we take the sugar and the poison out of it so we can be more human?
Yes, that's the title of my next keynote in Disrupt HR. The essence of it is working from home. We were forced to work from home. But then when COVID ended, we stayed at home. Why? Because for so many of us, it is very comfortable. And as I said before, we like comfort. Many times I'll find my kid sitting on the couch watching Netflix when I can see other kids playing outside. And I will have to force him to get out of his couch, his comfortable couch, right? Doing nothing, just consuming fun things, and go and invest effort making friends going outside. Now, which one is better for him? Right? Of course, going outside. Most people say yes. 90% of the time, going outside, playing in the sun with friends, making connections is more healthy for him, both physically and mentally. Yet, we are creatures of comfort. We will choose our comfort probably 9 out of 10 times. Why do we buy bigger homes? Why do we buy our Teslas? Right? It's comfortable. Right? It's much more comfortable. Now, why do we buy an Amazon? It's just comfortable. And when we choose this comfort, we're losing the human connection. Now we think it's okay. We get a greater pool of candidates from all over the world, right? We get to walk our kids to school and see and greet them when they come back, right? I can get my coffee, right? But the best coffee, not the mediocre drip coffee from work. I can get my best coffee, my espresso here, and it's always available. But what's the cost? We're losing the human connection. We're using this interaction that actually improves work, that improves relationship, that creates this human ecosystem or network that we have around us that actually makes us better. The best example is when you do a brainstorming session online or in a room, and someone says something, and you build on that, and someone else says it inspires an idea based on that. You will have a different quality of innovation when you're together in a room versus it's just online. Why? Because we're missing this physical human connection. And that is critical. This is where the poison is. And because of that, companies suffer. People are more siloed. They don't work as teams. They don't even turn on their video. I coach so many leaders, and they come to a conversation with me, their video is closed, and they feel uncomfortable because my video is always open, always open. Like, oh, well, yeah, let me see, how do I turn on my video? You're a senior leader. How can you turn off your video? Because we're so used to work from home and it's all about work versus something else, versus human connection.
I should have called you Major Megnazi. You worked in the military for many years. In what ways did your work in the military shape your thoughts on leadership and prepare you for life?
Wow, yes. So I'm originally from Israel. I was an officer in the army. I did my regular tour, and then 23 years after that in reserve duty. So I've done some amount of time of military work every year for 23 years. And I think it helped me in a couple of ways. First, it's the sense of belonging, right? I was part of something that I believed in deeply, still believe in, and made me feel more fulfilled, that I'm making an impact to something that I truly believe in and it's important to me. The second one is I was always around people that believed in the same dream like me, had the same values like me. And that being around people who are not exactly like you, but they have the same goal, always inspired us to be better together. And I think one of the most challenging ones, and I think the position that helped me build my leadership better, is being under fire, leading people, leading your team, your company, your platoon in dangerous situations. You learn to understand one thing, that people don't follow you because you have ranks on your shoulder. It is actually meaningless. When people are in danger, how up the ranks you are, how important you think you are, has zero impact on the result. It has zero impact on the fact of how people will follow you. Because let's take it to the basic soldier level that now has to charge and there's bullets flying over your head. You're going to risk your lives, right? Your life is at risk right now. Would you charge and risk your life even more? The answer for most human beings is no, you won't. In order to follow this commander, your boss, right, whether they're an officer or whatever rank they are, you have to believe in this person. first you have to believe in this person. You have to believe that they're doing their best, that they're professional, and that they care about you. If I don't think that you're a professional, I would never leave, right, my shelter and risk myself. So leadership has to be earned. You have to earn your leadership. People choose to follow you. Yes, when there's no risk, right? There's hierarchy, there's a system. They tell you to do A, you do A, but that's where there's no risk. When there is risk to you, you will choose if to follow those orders or not. So at the army, in the military, it goes to the extreme. You have to choose if to risk your life or not. But you have to be the best commander, the most professional, the most caring one to earn this leadership. So when you say charge, no one thinks twice, and they charge after you because they believe in you. They want to follow you because they trust you. So that was a great lesson about trust and about hierarchy. And it a little bit breaks the paradigm of, in the army, we follow the orders of our superiors. Not in combat. That works well in office. But in combat, there you have to be a true leader. You have to learn to be a true leader.
We are now living in a very different world than the world that we grew up in, even 40, 50 years ago. At least people have access to each other. They can travel, they can eat each other's food and understand culture. Do you see this new world going towards more peace and more harmony? Or is it creating more dissonance?
I would say sadly more dissonance, because social media is accessible. There are no limits. There's no way to verify what is truth and what is not. And because it's so accessible, you get it from so many directions. And also the algorithms are designed in ways that you will see more of what you already watched. You don't have the diversity. So if you suddenly, you thought you like cucumbers, guess what? Your Instagram feed, your Facebook feed, your Twitter feed, whatever feed you'll get, the algorithm is set. You will see more cucumbers because someone is selling cucumbers. And we could see that with the Spring Revolution in Africa, right? In other countries where we thought it's going to be the Spring Revolution, but yet it just created more and more dissonance. So those tools are used to radicalize people more, because you see more and more people that think like you. But is that the whole reality? What I'm doing right now, whatever my political stance is, I make sure I follow both sides so I can hear both sides. I'm going to do something that is very not popular right now, but I'm going to give a comment about US elections, right? And US parties. And I'm telling my friends, I'm so sorry for most people, because what do they have to choose from, right? What do we see in the news? We see far right and we see far left. And I would make a guess that 80% of people who have voting rights don't resonate fully with the far right and don't resonate fully with the far left. There are some things that it's just hard for them to resonate with, because the way you were brought up is the values do not align with both sides. And then there's no alternative. There's no middle stream that compromises. We're not compromising anymore. It's either all the way to the right, all the way to the left. Okay, what if I agree with some ideas in the right and some ideas in the left? I hear people who are Republicans, I hear people who are Democrats. I agree with some of the Democrats, I agree with some of the Republicans. Who should I vote for? And it's not just the US, right? I come from Israel. It happens the same over there. I have friends who are right-winged, I have friends who are left-wing, right? But if you look at most people, they're actually in the middle. They want to live together. They want to live peacefully, right? They don't resonate with all of the ideas. Yeah, they can agree with some of the ideas. That's how they grew up. That's part of their religion. Okay, fine, great. Can we accept that and still live in harmony? I think we lost the ability as people to compromise. I have to get everything my way. Everything has to be my way. Well, that's not reality. So I think as cultures, and you can see it all over the world. You can see it in Israel, you can see it in the US, you can see it in Europe, right? It's people are coming apart versus coming together. And I might say that social media might be the downfall of humankind.
Part of the reason why social media is doing this is because they have to create eyeballs, which means that they keep people anxious and excited at the same time. So either anxiety or feed their, their excitement.
Yeah,
Is there a way in
yes.
which we can create technologies that can benefit people, bring them together, rather than go in these two extreme directions?
I think we can. I don't think that the big companies want to, right? How do you bring people together? You bring them together, bring different people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different beliefs. You bring them together in a setting where they can actually meet one another, not for the purpose of winning, not for the purpose of winning. It's actually for the purpose of, let's see what's the overlap between us. So if we can create those groups that are not marginalized, it's not about one topic, it's about coming together, then maybe we can be better humans. Maybe we can be better neighbors, better friends. Is it outrageous to have amazing friends who are Republicans and amazing friends who are Democrats, and you love them both equally? Is it possible? I believe it is possible. But I think social media companies need to carve this in their values. We want to bring people together in a diverse way to create camaraderie, humankind camaraderie versus humankind separation.
In what ways has your life changed as you got into human engineering, into supporting socially, emotionally, and in leadership? How has your life changed?
I am much more fulfilled these days, much more fulfilled. There are moments in my life that I finish a coaching session with a leader, and as I turn off my Zoom, my video, I have to sit in my chair and I close my eyes and I put my hands together and I look up to God and I'm saying, thank you, thank you, thank you for putting me in this place right now, serving this other person. Thank you for using me as a tool, as a channel to bring this energy to help this person heal with the pains they're going through, with the challenges they're going through. It's this deep feeling of contribution. We always say, when you're going to die, how much money you have, how many cars, apartments, wealth, doesn't matter, right? It's about the impact you've made on the world. And serving humans, seeing the positive impact I'm able to facilitate, the healing I'm able to facilitate with people who are suffering, that gives me tremendous sense of impact. So I'm very fulfilled.
That's wonderful. And I sure hope you get to coach many more leaders, business leaders, leaders in technology as well, so that we can help each other create a world more harmonious, create apps, create media that can help people come together. And to everybody out there, I'm always looking for divergent views. We shouldn't all be just thinking. Groupthink is probably the biggest enemy of making sense and bringing joy. So let's find ways to learn from each other. Please come forward. I'm looking at different views. And Nir,
Beautiful.
again, thank you. I can't imagine Major Megnazi becoming a teacher Megnazi in such a short span of time. And I am very grateful to the work you've done at Intel and in other places because I have been a big beneficiary of it as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.